Hello, and welcome to Transformation by Truth podcast, where the called become the chosen, and those who have been dedicated to serve the Most High receive the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as we progress our quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. My name is D.L. Anderson. I'll be your tour guide. Let's get started with today's lesson. Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast in the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. Today, we continue week 10, the Quest for Holiness series. 2 weeks to prepare you for the journey of a lifetime. Today's podcast is Lecture H, a word of truth accounting of the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life, day 9. The title for the podcast for today is The Pinnacle of Holiness, Part 3. And behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to the heavens. Genesis 8:12. The Lecture H objectives are: reveal the greatest balancing act of all time, unveil the pinnacle of balance, unveil the pinnacle of perfection, and prove that we are made perfect in love. For those in our virtual book club, this lecture references Chapter 6 of the Pinnacle of Holiness, Volume 1, A Prelude to Holiness. Now, our first section is entitled The Greatest Balancing Act. We concluded yesterday's podcast by examining the pinnacle of power, i.e., the leading 6 degrees of the pinnacle of holiness, and the relationship between these 6 degrees and the first 3 major events of transformation we experience in this quest. Now, here are the 6 leading degrees of the pinnacle of holiness, i.e., the pinnacle of power: faith, obedience, virtue, the fear of Elohim, knowledge, and wisdom. Now, this next graphic shows the node of transformation following each mastery in our quest of power. Faith and obedience lead to potential, virtue and the fear of Elohim lead to function, and knowledge and wisdom lead to command. It goes without saying that your acquisition of power is preparing you for something truly amazing, and that is your conquest of balance. At first glance, you may not appreciate the significance of balance as it pertains to your quest for holiness. Trust me, I get it. The majority of those who have taught this message do not perceive the importance of this phase at the outset. However, the moment I tell them that 80% of their quest for holiness is spent in this phase, they immediately start paying attention, as they should. Believe me, your conquest of balance will be the most spiritually and physically demanding course you ever experience. Truly, everything in this life pales in comparison to it. No doubt, I'll go into greater detail as to why this is the case when we get to this point in your quest. Until then, we will examine the degrees of balance and their relationship with the levels of transformation. In doing so, you will obtain a fundamental appreciation as to why this phase is the greatest balancing act of all time. Now, our next section is entitled The Pinnacle of Balance. The second pinnacle you will encounter within the Pinnacle of Holiness is the Pinnacle of Balance. As the graphic for this section reveals, this model of balance is multidimensional and extremely complex in nature. This is because there is a spiritual and a physical component to it, and there is nothing simple about the intersection of spirit and physics. The Pinnacle of Balance includes two of the degrees of holiness found in our foundational passage, i.e. 2 Peter 1, 3 through 12, and a hidden level. Those are temperance and endurance. These 3 degrees represent 1/2 of the work required to achieve the spiritual balance required to reach perfection. By definition, spiritual balance is a work of the set-apart spirit that transforms us into predominantly spiritual beings governed by progressive spiritual thoughts. It includes a sizable yet painstaking reduction in our physical nature and an increase in our appreciation and awareness of time. Now, there are 2 other degrees of holiness that are required for us to achieve spiritual balance. These degrees are endurance and joy. Endurance is the interval that connects temperance and patience, and joy is the interval that connects patience to the hidden level and the hidden level to godliness. Now, here you see the image. You have temperance, endurance, patience, joy, and the hidden level. These 5 levels constitute the Pinnacle of Balance. And as you see, there is a hidden level, and joy connects 3 degrees. And it's the only degree that does that. So between the hidden level and the fact that joy connects 3 degrees, it should be clear that this will be an exciting phase to study. Now, on this slide, we have the levels of balance on the left and their corresponding levels of transformation on the right. Temperance corresponds to stability, patience to persistence, and the hidden level to symmetry. Now, our mastery of temperance via endurance leads to stability, and that is the foundation of spiritual balance. Our mastery of patience via joy maximizes our persistence, i.e., our ability to endure all things in our individual quests. And our mastery of the hidden level via joy opens the door to perfect symmetry, i.e., the essence of spiritual balance. In summation, by the time you master all the degrees of balance, you will have completed the focal 3 modules of transformation. 1, you will have achieved the highest level of stability, operating at all times with a distinct level of poise, never getting too high nor too low. 2, you will have unlocked supremacy of persistence, and you will be able to effectively endure all things. And 3, you will have transformed yourself into a perfectly symmetrical being, achieving a perfect balance and harmony between your spirit, your physics, and your soul. Now, our next section is entitled The Pinnacle of Perfection. The third and final pinnacle you will encounter within the Pinnacle of Holiness is the Pinnacle of Perfection. It is within this pinnacle or phase that you complete your quest for holiness. This is the stage when you complete your assimilation into the spiritual model of Yahushua Messiah. The Pinnacle of Perfection includes 3 of the degrees of holiness found in 2 Peter 1, 3 through 12. Those are godliness, kindness, and love. These 3 degrees represent 1/2 of the work required for you to complete your quest and achieve perfection. Now, there are two other degrees of holiness included in the Pinnacle of Perfection. These degrees are meekness and mercy. Meekness connects godliness to kindness, and mercy connects kindness to love. And here you have it: godliness, meekness, kindness, mercy, and love, the pinnacle of perfection. These 5 levels constitute the pinnacle of perfection. For this cause, it should be clear that these levels are the closest to the perfect nature of Elohim. Now, here on the left, we have the levels of perfection, godliness, kindness, and love. And on the right, we have the levels of transformation, rulership, rectification, and perfection. Now, our mastery of godliness via meekness leads to rulership, i.e., the foundation of dominion in heaven and earth. Our mastery of kindness via mercy leads to rectification and a complete restructuring of our beings. And last but not least, our mastery of love is evidence of our perfection and our completion of the transformation process. 1 John 4:12-18 reads, "If we love one another, Elohim does stay in us, and his love has been perfected in us. Elohim is love, and he who stays in love stays in Elohim, and Elohim in him. By this love has been perfected with us, in order that we might have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear holds punishment, and he who fears has not been made perfect in love." Now, our next section is entitled Made Perfect in Love. Before closing out today's podcast, I want to analyze the verses in 1 John 4 to validate the pinnacle of holiness by its degrees, specifically love. After all, it is my nature to go above and beyond the standard burden of proof. What can I say? I am very fond of evidence. Firstly, John testifies saying, "The love of Elohim has been perfected in us." This is a critical statement of evidence for a sure reason I will offer as an interest point. Consider it faithfully. Love is the only degree of holiness and the only gift or fruit of the Spirit that is scripturally associated with the act of being perfected, vis-a-vis the transcendent model at the end of the quest for holiness, not the contemporary model of perfection assigned to those who faithfully walk this way. Secondly, John says, love has been perfected within us so that we might have boldness in the day of judgment. This too is huge, because even if you go to the judgment and do not have any outstanding debts of sin, you still must be counted worthy of everlasting life. See Luke 20:35, 21:36. For this cause, our perfection, which is validated by our mastery of love, is the highest form of evidence we can submit at the judgment in support of our election into everlasting life. Last but not least, John says, "He who fears has not been made perfect in love." The key phrase here is "been made perfect in love," and a vow which clearly implies that we are made perfect by love. Since love is the highest level of the pinnacle of holiness, which again is not my personal creation, but an illustration of 2 Peter 1:3-12, we establish the Pinnacle of Holiness as an extension of the Word of Truth and one of the most applicable examples of the path to perfection. You will find this to be true while you are on your quest for more reasons than I can tell. What I can say is, we have not even begun to scratch the surface. We are barely beginning to lay the foundation. So if you're intrigued now, all I can say is stay excited, because a wealth of truth and knowledge is waiting for you. Now, here is the final word. If you say you love Elohim, prove it, and you be holy as he is holy. More than anything, the quest for holiness will reveal to you whether or not you truly love Elohim. It will show you who you are in the life of Yahushua Messiah. Those who honor him with your lips, yet refuse to give him your heart, or those who honor him by following his steps, all the way to the top of the pinnacle of holiness, which is love. Now, here is the assignment for today. Now that you have been revealed the pinnacle of holiness, pray to the Father to confirm that it is the way of truth. For the remainder of this podcast ministry is centered on it. It is centered on the pinnacle of holiness. Therefore, if you are not convicted by the Spirit that this is the path that leads to everlasting life, my dear friend, this is your stop. This is where you get off. For all others, we have one final lecture before we finally begin the journey of a lifetime. Now, here's what's next in this series. We completed today's podcast, The Pinnacle of Holiness Part 3, and tomorrow's podcast is The Pinnacle of Holiness Part 4, and the conclusion of this series and this phase of the quest. Now, if you are a member and have questions, please click the Q&A box underneath the video player. Likewise, if you have comments you want to share with the group, please share those in the comment box located beneath the Q&A box. Now, if you're not a member, you have questions about today's podcast, feel free to contact us via our website at www.pinnacleofholiness.com and use the form on our contact page, and we will respond to you as soon as we can. And thank you for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Remember to tune in with us every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And if you haven't already, visit us at www.pinnacleofholiness.com and make sure you sign up to join the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life 2022.